And hello and welcome back to Stream City Radio, streamcity.org, Stream City Sports. As we take a look at the Big 12 and comparing the conferences, kind of been through it and give you a really quick recap. This is the 8th in the series of 9. And basically, we're trying to determine who had the best year between the conferences. Who's the strongest? Has anybody overtaken the SEC? Has the, is the SEC's dominance waned? We kind of covered that in every one of these. Yeah, it's not what it's been. Doesn't necessarily mean they're not the top conference. And I know a lot of people want to poo-poo the top to bottom thing, but that's a real thing. If my bottom teams are as good as your mid-level teams, then my conference is much better, and therefore my wins in my conference mean more. Is that what the numbers are going to say, though? Kind of teasing these all out. We put everything, because I don't think, basically it's this. You can't count bowl games because that's not the teams that played during the regular season. Even in the playoffs, it's a little skewed. And we don't have equal representation in the playoffs. So that's really not a good measuring stick for the top to bottom strength of a conference. FCS games are approached in completely different ways by different coaches. So what we're left with is regular season games between the power teams and the group of 5. That's what we have. We get a lot more data points from some conferences than others. And some of that, is a direct result of just about everybody's playing an FCS school. You can count on 2 hands the teams that aren't. At least in the power conferences, there's not 10. I mean, it's not many. Most everybody's got somebody on their schedule. So those are getting tossed out, but unfortunately it leaves us with some limited data points, especially as some of these conferences have transitioned, and you had some games that might have been scheduled that didn't get dropped that are now conference games, but they don't get counted as a conference game, and we really can't count them in this because they're conference game. Happened in the Big 12 a couple times, happened in the ACC as well. So we end up with a couple Big 12 squads that only have 1 data point. So it can skew the numbers a little bit, but it's going to give us kind of a basic overview of where these conferences fall. So we did the top half, and now we're going to dive into the bottom 5 tiers. There's 8 tiers in a power conference, 12 tiers overall. You start off with 12 points. You give away points or get points depending on the tier differential. If I'm a tier 1 playing a tier 10, I'm giving away 9 points. So instead of starting out at 12, I start out at 3. And I can earn points back by beating the crap out of the other team, but only up to 15. And it is skewed on whether I'm home, neutral site, or away. So there you go. That is the total breakdown of what we've got. And as we get into that lower half, our tier 5 teams out of the Big 12 are TCU and Cincinnati. Okay, TCU opened up in North Carolina. We all remember that one. It was supposed to be the coming out party at Carolina, and looked like it. Drive 1 right down the field. Carolina people were beside themselves. They were on the other side of themselves when the game ended, unfortunately. It's 48-14 the final as TCU just put a beat down on the Tar Heels in that opening weekend. It was a 5 versus 7 matchup, so, TCU's given away a couple points there, but they get 13 for the lopsided road win. And even at that, it puts them at 23 total, which is only a couple teams there's only a handful of teams have made it into the 20s, but to make it into the 20s against a power team, funny enough, is about half of the time that it happens, it is against another power team. So, North Carolina, bad look, terrible for the ACC, big-time win for the Big 12. Then SMU rolls into town, another win, 35-24. Don't get as many points because it's a home game. It's a lot closer. It's a 5 versus 2. You're actually getting 3 points this time. So You get 3 for the, I made a mistake there for a minute, but I did not. You get 3 for the win, gives you a total of 18. Okay, there we go. Makes more sense now. Too many numbers. What I'm doing is showing you my homework in these first 8. Podcast number 9, we'll dig deep into those numbers, and we will on Monday on the radio show and tell you what they really mean. I mean, we're going to take a glimpse at that today, but not the 5,000 foot, 10,000 foot look down on it, taking everything into account. This is just going to be the tier system that we're breaking out. So you end up with a 41 overall, which is a massive number for TCU, a 20.5. So to finish in the 20s for your average, that's a big time number. And it's kind of been this way with the Big 12. It's been feast or famine. Either teams have done really well or they've struggled. TCU definitely on the done very well side of things. Now let's visit the other side of it, the struggle bus. Cincinnati takes on Nebraska, and this is a 5 versus 5 matchup. This is a 3-point loss at a neutral site. You give away 1 point, so it's an 11. So nothing. I mean, that's very respectable. I would say, if you're in that 11 to 13 range, that's just both teams could have kind of gone either way situation. So a win for the Big Ten, but not a big win for the Big Ten. Then Bowling Green comes into town. Well, you won it. There's the good news. You won it by 14. The bad news is Bowling Green's a Tier 11 team out of the Mid-America Conference. And you won by 14. So you get 4 points for being at home, but you're giving up 6. So you end up with a net loss at 2 and a 10 overall for a combined total of 21 and only 10.5. So, but that still doesn't offset the 20.5 that TCU put up there. So as a group, the Tier 5 teams did really well, carried by TCU. And, it's going to be about a 15.5 is where that's going to come out when it's all said and done, which is a great number. Tier 6, Baylor. Not great, not horrible. You had a bad night against Auburn, a game that got away from you late. 38-14, the final in that one. Problem is you're also giving up a point because you're the higher seed of 6 versus 7. So you lose 6 points, so you're losing 7 overall, and it ends up crushing you. 5 is your final number against Auburn. You do, however, make up for it against SMU. SMU comes in there, and you beat them 48-45. That's a 6 versus 2. You're getting 4 points this time, and you won at SMU. So you're getting 6 points total for a total of 18. So you kind of right the ship. You still don't get back to the median line of 12 for your average. 23 points in 11.5 after you start out in the hole you did against Auburn. That's a good outcome. Kansas takes on Fresno State and had their way with them. 31-7 the final in this one. It's a 6 versus 8, so you're giving up 2, getting 7 on the win for a total of a gain of 5, so 17 is your point total. Play Missouri on the road, lose by 11. It's a 6 versus 4, so you're getting a couple there. So you only you lose 3 for the loss, but gain back 2 because Missouri's a higher rated team, so it's an 11. So ends up, even with the loss, not a bad look for the Big 12 in that situation. And that's where I talk about you can't just look at wins and losses. Yes, it's a win for the Big 12, win for the SEC. Not a huge win for the SEC. And a little bit, the SEC comes out ahead, but the Big 12, even on the loss, doesn't come out looking bad. 11 overall, 28 total for an average of 14, which is another great average. You're just doing well week after week. For the most part in the Big 12, you've had 3 teams that have really dropped the ball. Another team that did well. Central Florida, they play Jacksonville State. Week 1, it's a 7-point win at home, so you get a point there. But you're actually the lower seeded team. Jacksonville State, as the top team, in the top tier, coming out of the Conference USA, they're a tier 6, you're a tier 7, so you're getting 1 point there. You get 1 point for the win, 14. North Carolina, another bad look for the ACC, and that's the only thing about this tier thing. You can have a couple teams really pull a tier down, but I like it more for the rating system than necessarily the way the tiers are breaking down. But we'll go through the tiers because I don't think that's unimportant. But what it does is it balances lopsided games that we know are going to be lopsided. I know my 1 seed should beat the crap out of your 8. We got to balance that somehow. So this was the attempt to do that. These were 2 7 seeds going at it, though, so you didn't need to balance anything here. 34-9 win for Central Florida at home. You get another 7 points for that. A 19, total of 33, 16.5. So another big number for the Big 12 as they continue to do well. And to be honest with you, they've been the most surprising out of the group to me overall. And we'll get into those numbers. The consistency of doing well is a little bit surprising to me. We knew that it was, and they're not playing, to be fair, they're not playing a ton of top competition out of other conferences. But that's why we've weighted it. So, West Virginia, they go on the road, lose to Ohio in week 1. It's a 7-point loss. They lose a point there. Once again, they're the lower seed. Ohio, a top-tier team out of the Mid-America Conference, so they get a point back. It's a push. It's a loss, but a push. And that's one of those, people immediately look and go, oh, Big 12 lost to the Mid-America Conference. This is horrible. No, it's the bottom of the Big 12, losing by 7 on the road against the top of the Mid-America Conference. It's a push. Then Pittsburgh rolls into town. They get a big upset win here. And the big thing here, this is a 7 versus 2. So they're getting 5 points. It's a close ball game. It's a 7-point win at home. So you're only getting a point for that. But you get 6. You're getting 5 for the differential. So it's a big 18 points going up for West Virginia, putting them at 30 and an average of 15. So, yet again, another good deal for the Big 12. Then we've got Colorado, the first of the Tier 8 squads, Colorado and Oklahoma State, the Tier 8s. And Colorado loses at home in that opener against Georgia Tech. Game that Tech did not play well in. Turned the ball over a ton, but they win it. 7-point win on the road helps Tech out a little bit in this one. But Colorado getting 5 points is an 8 versus 3 matchup. So they're getting 5 points in that situation. They're losing 3. So in spite of the loss, because of the 8 seed, you end up with 14 points. So that is a slight win for the Big 12. Wyoming, 17-point game, closer than a lot of people would have thought, an 8 versus 11 in this situation. So they're giving up 3. Get 5 for the victory, so another 14. So they end up with 14 as their average and 28 total for the 2 non-conference games. Finally, Oklahoma State, where you can understand why they made the change with Gundy. I'm not sure he was completely the problem, but when you're putting up numbers like they put up in non-conference and continue to put up through the conference, you can understand why they made the change. And maybe it was just a time for a change for both. Oregon was a complete disaster, 69-3 at Oregon. Oregon could have scored as many points as they wanted to in this one. An 8 versus 2 matchup, so you're getting 6 there, but you're giving up the full 15, so you end up with a total of 3. Tulsa comes into town. This was even, a closer game, but maybe worse. In-state team comes in and beats you by 7 on your home field. An 8 versus 12. Tulsa, the worst team in the American Conference, comes in and beats your worst team by 7. So you're giving up 4, giving up another 3 for the loss, and it's a 5 points for Oklahoma State total for a total of 8 and an average of 4. And that is by far the worst team. We kind of knew they were the worst team. This kind of bears it out. Of the power schools, they may have been the worst team of all the schools. I don't know. They were bad. It was a rough season. No, they're not the worst. Georgia State was bad. There were a couple really bad teams. So at any rate, that's where we come down with Oklahoma State. So where does it end up when we look at it just on the levels, on the different levels? We went over the top portion of it in the first half of this radio show, and we'll be in the podcast number 7 in the group, this being number 8 we're in. But when we look at it, level 5, the Big 12 did okay. They were actually number 1, 15.5. ACC right behind them. Then the SEC not far behind them, followed by the Big 10. It was a pretty big gap there. Level 6, a 12.75 your average. Big 10 kind of walked away with this one. This is the only one that the SEC ended up in these numbers is below the 12. They had 11.2, and the ACC had a 12. So Big 12 finished second in that number. Level 7, a 15.75, another great number. Does fall behind the SEC at 16.5, but ahead of the Big 10 at 14.75, and way ahead of the ACC, who put up a stinking 6.7. And then this is your chance to stink, Big 12. You put up an 8.5 in the level 8. You got the SEC finishing first at 15.35. The Big 10 at 15. The ACC below 500, but ahead of you by 2 points at 10.5. Now let's look at the power, just against the power teams. How did everybody do? Level 5, put up a 17.3. That's a huge number. ACC put up a 24. It's another one of those, kind of like when you put up the 21 at level 2, the ACC had a one-team blowout, 24. I believe that was Louisville taking care of Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I believe that's what that was. So, you know, with 24 there, they finish first, the ACC does. But you get second with a, you get second with a 17.3. The SEC's a 15.5. The Big 10 not doing well at all here. It was an 8. Level 6, you got 11.3, which is actually the best. Level 6 teams kind of struggled across the board. The ACC was actually second with a 10.25, the SEC with a 9.7, and the Big 12 didn't play anybody out of a group of 5 with their level 6 teams. Level 7, fantastic number, 18.5, but the SEC equaled it. So you're the same there, but way, way ahead of the Big 10 at a 10.5, and the ACC at a 6.7. Level 8, you had an 8.5. Ugly, finished last, but nobody did great. The ACC actually won level 8 against the power schools in 11. The SEC and the Big 10 both had 10s, and the Big 12 came in with an 8.5. So it's not, it's ugly. You had 2 of them that were really ugly against the power schools, level 3, and level 8. You did fantastic 3 times at level 2, 5, and 7. And then around average to good in level 1 and level 3. And to be honest with you, everybody, that level 1, everybody was in that 12 to, I mean, you were top at 14.8. The bottom was 12.3. So what I've maintained for years is everybody's top schools can play with each other. That's not the issue. The question is, as you dig down further into this, you know, how does it shake out? And what I'm finding, these numbers would tell me, and we'll do, like I said, the deeper dive. I'm going to get too far into it here because we're going to talk about it again on Monday. When we get that lower half, I'm not sure that the Big 12 isn't outperforming the Big 10. And I still think the SEC appears to be better on that bottom half. The ACC struggled mightily. So we'll dig into all those numbers on Monday. But, you know, hey, that's where we're at. And, you know, if you look at, well, I don't want to get into those numbers. We'll just save something for Monday because there's a lot more here to unpack that will kind of clarify, because right now I've left the waters kind of muddy. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag. So what do all the numbers say? Because you can make numbers say about anything. I think you have to look at them 12 ways from Sunday before you get a true view of what you're really seeing. And maybe it is everybody's close. Anyhow, that'll do it for podcast 8 in the series, 9 coming up on Monday. And for Stream City Radio, streamcity.org, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the final segment of the show in just a moment here on Stream City Radio, streamcity.org. I'm James O'Brien. Hope you're enjoying the show.